What is going on, guys? Welcome to the NBA betting market preview for December 23rd. We're going to start off with Charlotte taking on Cleveland. The line opened as Charlotte as 1-point favorites on the road. They've been bet up to 2.5-point favorites. 78% of bettors are on Charlotte. 96% of the money is on Charlotte as well. Do notice, though, against the spread, guys, there is more juice charged against Cleveland. So this is a little bit of a confusing market, especially with the line moving from 1 to 2.5-point favorites. We'll move on to the money line, where Charlotte was minus 120, but they've pushed up to minus 137 with 61% of bets. They also have 99% of money. That's probably going to even out a little more as we head to tip-off, which is going to be in about 2 hours, I believe, as of this recording. We also have the over-unders at 215. It's been pushed up to 217. 63% of bettors have been helping push that number up, but 67% of the money is on the under. So keep your eye out on that under. Next up, we have the New York Knicks traveling to Indiana to take on the Pacers. Pacers open as 8-point favorites. They've been bet down to 7.5. So bettors are on the Knicks. 52% of bettors on the Knicks. 62% of the money is on the Knicks against the spread. Onto the money line, where Indy open minus 321. They've been bet down to minus 312. 46% of bettors on the Knicks. 55% of the money. So Square and public bettors both on the Knicks money line. Then we also have the over-under. It opened at 215. It's been bet up to 216. And 93% of the money has been put on the over. On to the next one, Miami at Orlando. Miami opened as 3.5-point favorites. They've been bet up to 5-point favorites. 78% of the money is on Miami. 73% of the money, 78% of bets are on Miami. 73% of the money has pushed the line up from 3.5 to 5. Then we also have the money line, which opened at minus 157. It's been bet up to minus 201. That is because 85% of the money has been put on the Miami Heat. And then for the over-under, 221 is what it opened at. It's been bet down to 218. And 57% of bets have been put on the under. Unfortunately, we don't have the data yet for the money percentages for that game. It's probably going to be something we're going to get after tip-off or really close to it. But that 57% of bettors has helped push that line down from 221 down to 218. Next up, we have Washington at Philly. There's 1,134 bets on this game so far. Philly opened as 7. They are currently at 7. The bet percentages are split 50-50. So there is no side that the public is on. However, though, 98% of the money have been put on the 76ers. The money line currently is the same. 63% of bettors are on the Washington money line, which is interesting to see. Not sure how much money is on each side, though. And then for the over-under, 229 is what it opened at. It's been bet up to 231 points, thanks to 71% of bettors. Now on to Milwaukee at Boston. Milwaukee opened as 2.5-point favorites. They've been bet up to 4.5-point favorites. 71% of bettors are on Milwaukee. However, 57% of the dollars wagered are on the Boston Celtics. As for the money line for this game, Milwaukee opened minus 165. They've been bet up to minus 182, in line with that line movement from 2.5 to 4.5. 86% of bettors are on the Milwaukee Bucks. 95% of the money is on Milwaukee. And then looking at the over-under, it opened at 226. It's been bet down to 224 at the moment. There is more juice on the under, and 58% of bettors are on the under. Next up, let's look at the New Orleans Pelicans traveling to Toronto. Or I'm not even sure where Toronto is playing, but is it Buffalo? I think it's Buffalo. Either way, Toronto is technically the home team. They opened as 4.5-point favorites as a home team. They've been bet down to 4-point favorites. 59% of bettors and 94% of the money is on the New Orleans Pelicans. The New Orleans Pelicans. Onto the money line, Toronto minus 189. They've been bet down to minus 175. And that is because 56% of bettors have helped bet that down. Interesting to see, though, 89% of the money is on Toronto. So a little bit of a reverse money line on the Toronto Raptors money line. So that's an interesting thing to see. The line opened at 230 for the over-under. It's been bet down to 229. 53% of bettors are on the under. 66% of the money is on the under. On to Atlanta at Chicago. This game opened as 2-point favorites for Atlanta on the road. It still currently is at 2 points. 56% of bettors are on Atlanta. 59% of the money is on Atlanta. Next up, the money line. Not much to report here. For open to current, it's pretty much the same. Atlanta minus 124 to minus 127. 75% of bettors are on Atlanta. However, only 35% of the money is on Atlanta. So an interesting play there. Sharps are on the Bulls money line at home. And then for the over-under, it opened at 229. It's been bet up to 233. Heavy juice on the over at minus 114. And 75% of bettors are on the over. So that's an interesting over to look at, Atlanta at Chicago as far as the market's concerned. Next up, OKC at Houston. So this line's moved quite a bit. It's Houston open as 6.5-point favorites. They've been bet down to 3. I'm guessing that has a lot to do with the turmoil behind James Harden and all the news that's come out about him. 52% of bettors are on OKC. 83% of the dollars wagered are on OKC. So sharps are definitely on Oklahoma City with that line moving from 6.5 down to 3. For money line, they opened at plus 219. OKC did. They are currently plus 120, despite only receiving 30% of bets. But they do have 72% of the dollars wagered on them on the money line for OKC. The OU has moved quite a bit too. It opened at 226. It's been bet down to 217. 39% of bettors on the over. 88% of the dollars wagered on the over, which is interesting to see as well. So that would be a heavy line movement, heavy reverse line movement towards the OKC Houston over, with the line moving down to 217, but the percentage money at 88%. On to the Spurs Memphis game. Memphis opened as 2-point favorites. They still are 2-point favorites. 64% of early bettors are on Memphis. 91% of the money is on Memphis. Let's look at the money line. The money line hasn't changed from opening to the current line. 67% of bettors are on Memphis. 99% of the money is on San Antonio. And then for the over-under 200, the open was 232 points. Currently, it's at 230 points. 71% of bettors like the under in that game. Unfortunately, we don't have the money percentages for that over-under. On to the Detroit-Minnesota game. Detroit is 4-point underdogs on the road. They are currently 5.5 at the moment, with minus 108 juice on their side. 62% of bettors are on Minnesota. 98% of the dollars wagered is on Minnesota. For the money line for Minnesota, we have minus 189 up to minus 208. 20% of bettors are on Minnesota money line. So a lot of bettors do like Detroit. 80% of bettors Detroit money line. It has moved up though to plus 184, so that would be a line that I would stay away from. And then the over under, it opened at 227. It's been bet down to 225, and 55% of bettors are on the over, despite the line moving down 2 points. On to Sacramento at Denver. This line opened at Denver minus 8.5. It is currently Denver minus 2, with 95% of the money put on the Sacramento Kings. So I'm guessing there was some sort of injury or report coming out on that game to make the line move 6.5 points. Despite that, still 95% of the money on Sacramento, but I have a feeling that a lot of that money probably came in with Sacramento closer to plus 8.5. Next up, the money line. Sacramento is plus 264, but they opened at plus 295. 95% of bettors are on Denver money line, which is interesting to see. And I'm sure a lot of those bet percentages came in when the line did shift down. There is something off here. Let me just double check my numbers and make sure this is correct, because this does not look correct. Yeah, so Denver, so this line here is actually not 2. It's supposed to be 7.5. So it's just an input error on my part. So 7.5 for Denver. So this line hasn't moved nearly as much as you see, but there has been a reverse, not a reverse line movement, sorry, but there has been line movement towards Sacramento at plus 7.5. And then on to the over-under, which opened at 225. It's been bet up to 226. 75% of bettors are on the over, so that line movement makes sense. On to the Utah-Portland game. So for Utah-Portland, Portland opened as 1.5-point favorites. They've been bet down to 1-point underdogs. 59% of bettors are on Portland. 52% of the dollars wagered are on Portland. As for the money line, Portland minus 114 down to plus 104. 97% of bets are on the Utah Jazz. 64% of the money on the Utah Jazz, and that's been enough to move the line from plus 103 to minus 115 in Utah's favor. And then for the over-under, it opened at 229. It's been bet down to 226, minus 112 juice on the over, and 44% of bettors are on the over. And then on to the final game of the day. The Dallas Mavericks travel to Phoenix to take on the Suns, who open as 1.5-point favorites. They've been bet down to 1.5-point underdogs, and that's because 57% of bettors and 64% of the money has been put on Dallas. However, on the money line, Phoenix moved from minus 108 down to minus 101, and 51% of bettors and 93% of the money is on Phoenix. So that's an interesting line to see. You can tell that bettors more recently have put more money down on Phoenix after that line has moved. And then for the final market of the day, the over-under opened at 237 for this game. It's been bet down to 233. 59% of bettors are on the over. 41% of bettors are on the under. So that is the December 23rd betting market preview for the NBA. Hopefully you guys can use this information to help you guys make smart decisions today, and good luck with your December 23rd wagers.